That's something, isn't it? You know, most people put up a picture of their family. Not him. I bet you all wish he was your dad. But one thing I know for sure is, if you don't like me, you're really not going to like your speaker for today. So please give it up for, or not, my dad, Mr. Blank.
How do you get up on that rock? Yeah, just get up here.
The Lord be with you. Thank you. So Heidi and Mr. Orr and Sophie Orr and I, we go backpacking a lot. Sometimes we video the river crossing. Sometimes we're just not mentally in a place. We've crossed rivers where there was ice all around us and the water flowing down, and we were pretty miserable, sprained wrists at times. But Mr. Orr strapped on his GoPro on this one, so we do have some footage. On one of the hikes, on this particular hike, at a different river crossing on this particular hike, I asked Heidi, because we had to find, the rivers are always changing, and so sometimes you get to a river and it's not the best place to cross where the trail is. So we walked, Mr. Orr and I would scope out, go upstream, go downstream, and then we feel the panic setting in, thinking, are we not able to go any farther? The ranger told us to turn around if that's what it calls for. But eventually we say, okay, I think this might work, as we scramble down. And then Heidi and Sophie are waiting there patiently for us, and then we found a spot. And we get there, and we go ahead and we try to cross. And we crossed. And I asked Heidi after we got across, I said, after her pulses are all back to normal, I said, Heidi, were you and Sophie, what were you talking about? Were you nervous? What's the mood like? And she goes, oh, we knew you guys would get us across. And that warmed my heart, because we had crossed so many different rivers over our times together. And that crossing together has given her the confidence that we'd get her across. Now, I don't always have that confidence, because I understand how ugly that scene can look if somebody slips. So there was two things in that story then. There was her faith, which could be strong or weak. And then there was Mr. Orr and I. And we could be strong or weak for them. There is their faith, and there is the object of their faith. Can you click there? So I'm going to use ice as an example, because that ice can have a certain thickness to it. And that ice has to be thick enough to support weight. And then there's different levels that are acceptable for different types of behaviors, and some that you would just never go out on. How much faith we have in that ice will determine, A, whether we'll succeed or fail. The thickness of the ice will. And also and our faith in that ice, whether it's strong or weak, will determine how well we behave on that. So I'm going to tell you two stories about two different behaviors, and then some ice. So that's going to be about snowmobiles here. So let's watch the first one. So two guys are going to, well, here's only going to be one, but two guys go to cross the ice. One goes boldly on his snowmobile, no fear. He survives, and all is well. And he is having a good time. And then another guy crosses on that same ice, except this guy creeps across, crawls across ever so carefully, scared out of his mind, and also makes it across. Didn't matter if you were brave or fearful. What mattered was the object. The object of their faith is what ultimately supported them. Not their behaviors, but what they had their faith in, strong or weak. Now, some weeks pass. Spring comes on. Two guys go out on the ice again. First one with his snowmobile. Go ahead. Always keep the camera running. That's an important rule, just keep the camera running. The first one tries to go across with great faith, and he sinks. He had faith, but his object was weak. And then the second guy, he lives. No, I don't want you to worry about him. He lives. But in my story, the guy dies. Okay, now, second guy goes and he creeps across the ice, same ice, and he falls in and dies as well. Again, the story still holds. They both had faith, one weak, one strong, but what was the determining factor of their success was the strength of the ice, the object of their faith. It didn't matter if you had strong or weak faith, if the object of your faith is weak. Can you go to the next slide? So, I'm going to tell you another story about two death row inmates or men there. And now we're going to move away from the ice. And they had their hopes and their fears and their successes, but they ultimately failed because now they were being executed. So something had gone tremendously wrong. Now, centered between these two men was a third man on death row. And this man had done everything right, everything that mattered in life, he accomplished. But at the end, he was sentenced to death. Let's go to the next slide. Talking about the three crosses here. We got these three guys here. Now I want you to imagine, I want you to smell the text with me here. When you have this event happening here, we have sound of the gravel under your feet, people walking around, and you hear laughter. You hear laughter at this execution going on. And we're going to hear it from four parties. The first party is the soldiers that we're hearing this laughter from. They put a crown on his head. A crown! They thought it was funny. Of course, it was made of thorns. They flogged him, beat him down, tore his flesh up. And they had comments for him. Oh, look, it's the King of the Jews. The King of the Jews. Look at you now. All right. And then we have, that's one thing that we're hearing on this day. And we have another laughing crowd going on. We have strangers that are walking by. And these strangers, this guy said he was going to rebuild the temple. Look at you now, Mr. Big Talk. So we have that laughter going on. This guy hanging up there in between these two guys is hardly a solid object. I mean, look at him. He's battered and he's bloody. And then we have the elders and the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and they're laughing too, you hear. And they're saying, oh, King of the Jews, yes. Save yourself. You saved so many. And now look at you. We were finally right. And then we have an unexpected fourth laughter coming on here. This unexpected fourth, the sinner just has to look to the side, and he sees this other dying man making fun of him. Now this is not something how I imagine my final moments in life, in my view, to say, I'm going to make some jokes. This would be the perfect time to break some ice here and tell some jokes. But that's what this guy does. He starts making fun of Jesus too. He says, oh, save yourself, save me too while you're at it. So we have all this laughter and this seemingly weak person in the middle. And then I'm going to throw in, there's one more set of laughter going on that nobody knows about, and that's death itself. Death is laughing because in all of this pride, death is laughing and saying, you're making fun of this guy who's dying, but you're next. All of you priests and all of you soldiers, all of you strangers, they're all gone. You can go to Israel now. They're not there anymore. They're all dead. They all had their moment and they all died. They all had faith in the wrong things. They had faith in weak things and now they're dead. So, the weight of death outweighed their foolish things. Can we go to the next slide? So, we have these great things in our lives, and God gave them to us. God gave you if you have a good bank account, He gave that blessing to you. He gave your family to you. He gave your friends. If your dad's good looking and witty and clever and funny, these are all great gifts from God. And then the devil corrupts things, and he tries to make these things our God. And then we start trusting them. And then we sit there and we think, oh, these things are always going to be there for me. My youth will always be there for me. My health. I'll be able to leap up mountains for the rest of my life and cross rivers. And eventually things start failing. The parents that we relied on, the families that you'll have one day, the kids that you have, these things can slip away from us. And then we're left saying, well, wait a minute. These things are my hope. These are my salvation. But let's look to the other man. Let's look to the other man on the other side of Jesus. See, the disciples all ran away, except for John, but the disciples ran away because they had a different idea. They wanted a Savior who didn't bleed. They wanted an invincible king. And when Jesus bled, they ran. But here we have this criminal. This other criminal, not the one telling jokes, this other criminal looks over to Jesus and he realizes that this bloody man is his salvation. He looks over and he knows he needs a God who bleeds, a God who dies. Next slide. See, throughout the Bible, we have all the sacrifices of the Old Testament, and in faith they looked forward. They looked forward towards this cross, towards this moment. Because this Good Friday moment was a big deal. It's a big deal in the church. It's a big deal for human civilization. It's a big deal for our souls. And everybody was looking forward to some moment where there was going to be a sacrifice like this. And then everywhere, from that moment on, that first Good Friday on, we've all been looking back in faith towards that moment. And we've had to always imagine it. But this criminal didn't have to look forward to it. He didn't have to look backwards to it. He just had to look to his side and see his Lord bleeding there. The blood that was saving him was right there. It was pouring over Jesus' eyes. As this man looked, he saw his sins being forgiven. And this man had this faith in a strong object. It didn't look strong, but it was strong for him. He saw his Lord bleeding out for him. The object of his faith was strong. And what does this man say? He says, remember me. That's what he says. And that's what we are always saying. Mom, Dad, remember me. We say, teachers, we say to our friends, look at me, remember me. And here's him saying, Lord, remember me. And what does Jesus say back? Jesus looks back and says, today you will be with me in paradise. Jesus remembered him. And Jesus is unshakable for you too. He says, in remembrance of me, here is my unshakable body and blood for you. This is for you, to remember me, because I am remembering you, and I will always be there for you. Thank you very much.